What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another weekly review. I hope you're doing well, and yeah, let's jump straight into things. So as you can see, I have the I have the economic calendar here for us to take a look at. This is how I usually view it. I found a way to actually show you guys. It wasn't that hard. I don't know why I didn't do this before, but anyway, we can now take a look at this ourselves together and see what to expect this week. So you can see we have high impact news Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Mainly when I look at high impact news, I'm looking at the dollar, and I only look at the high impact, and pretty much every week at this point we have some kind of craziness going on. PPI on Thursday, definitely looking forward to that, and then CPI on the Wednesday. So I do believe midweek is going to be very volatile, and if you watched my live stream earlier, you'll remember me saying that this week is going to be very deciding, unlike the rest of us moving into the rest of the first quarter of the year. So what do I mean by that? What I'm saying is that we've been stuck in a consolidation for a while now, and we're at a point where we're waiting for a large expansion outside of the range to tell us, okay, what kind of trend we're going to be in, whether we're going to continue rallying or whether the price is going to drop off precipitously. And because of that, we need to be considerate that, there's no need to rush. We should be, at this point, we need to be at very low risk until we see all the signs, basically all the stars align. But yeah, what I was saying is that I feel like this week's going to be very deciding for us, and based off that, it should be quite interesting to say the least. Now, Mondays following non-farm payroll tend to be very volatile, so I am looking forward to the Monday, and as we drop down to the lower time frames, we'll be able to take a look at that. But generally speaking, let's just remember that we have high impact news on Tuesday. Wednesday, I think, is when it's going to really pop off, and Thursday and Friday. So yeah, something to keep in mind. Wednesday and Thursday are the days specifically I'm going to be looking to trade. Friday, if I'm feeling it, but then Wednesday and Thursday, and then Monday this week are the ones I've got my eyes on. So let's get rid of that for now, and we're here on the weekly, and at this point we need to figure out, do we want to see an up close week or a down close week? Now, as you can see, we are in an uptrend, and we have been in an uptrend, and we haven't had a significant break in market structure on the weekly yet, so it is safe to assume, and as weird as it feels, that we should continue to have a bullish bias until we're completely convinced that we're bearish. So we could argue that we're expecting an up close candle. I've been wanting to see us fill this fair value gap in at the top above here for the longest time now. If you've been watching this channel, you'll know. But I've had my eyes on here for a while. Excuse me, my mouse is weird. Yeah. And then if you look at the recent price action, you'll see our price has run out this week's high, and then we failed to take out these week's lows. And if we look at the Fibonacci on this wick, you can see how we traded down to the 25% level and came off that. So yeah, price action right now is quite difficult, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out a few things, and we're going to work our way around. So we have this fair value gap right here that you can see we traded into, and look at where volume turned around in this fair value gap. So there's a few things on this time frame which are significant to us. We have the fact that volume has respected the 50% level, and we traded outside of the fair value gap. You can see that last week we also traded outside of the fair value gap and only tapped it to the 50% level. But then you can also take note of this bullish order block and the fact that we traded into it. So from a weekly perspective, there's no reason for us to expect that price should be able to drop lower, because we're respecting bullish PD arrays, this bullish order block, this bullish fair value gap, and you can see our price traded into it and came out of it. So if we just go in with the assumption that we are going to remain bullish, then we can use that to our advantage. So what would I be looking at now? Well, I am going to be using this week's wick, and I'm going to mark out the consequent encroachment. And you can see that pretty much lines up with the top of this fair value gap, which is pretty much ideal. And this would be the highest or lowest I'd want to see price trade this week if we are to remain bullish. And as we drop down to the lower time frames, we should be able to find PD arrays that line up with that thesis. So let's type in weekly consequent encroachment, if I can figure out how to type. Weekly consequent encroachment. Oh, that's the opening. Interesting. And then if we go to the daily, you can see our price turned around within that range and traded up into this fair value gap. Now we do have, this is an implied fair value gap between this low and this close. So technically you could argue that there is an implied fair value gap right there. So I'm going to just draw that out. I don't want to talk too much on this. I did used to use them a lot, but I think it was confusing a lot of us, and it was even confusing me to an extent. But ICT's taught this like once or twice, and basically it's the idea that there's a fair value gap here because there's only upside. yeah, it's hard to explain, but when you see a wick like this and a wick like this and there's a gap, you can argue that's a fair value gap. And because we've closed above it and we've closed above this candle as well, this should act bullishly. So again, I'm happy for price to trade down there. It's just that we want to find support within it if it decides to. And then at that point, we'd be looking for price to trade up higher in towards these highs and these highs. So let's take a look at the 4 hour, see what we can find. And you can see that we've taken out these significant swing highs here and here. So you can see that price is, jarring its way higher. There's also my mouse is not working, guys. Let me just get this fixed. Apologies for that. Everything should be fine now. But yeah, what I'm going to be looking at is I'm going to be looking at this current trading range between this low and this high. And you can see that we have a fair value gap within this range. So I will keep my eyes on this. I'm happy for price to drop down into that, maybe to create the low of the week. And if we're going to have an up close week, ideally we see that low get created on Monday or Tuesday, but it is possible to happen on Wednesday as well. But that's just something to take note of, because it's not very uncommon for price to rally maybe Monday and then Tuesday it drops, and it's just important to have these marked out. So let's get that marked out as a 4 hour fair value gap in the discount. If this manages to stay open this week, though, that will be hinting towards very high bullishness, because it managed to stay open. So it's failing to fill discount PD arrays, but this is the lowest I'd want to, not the lowest, yeah, this is the lowest I'd want to see price trade basically into this 4 hour fair value gap. And then I'd expect price to be able to springboard from there and trade on higher, because it's still got this imbalance to fill between this high and this low. And then it's also got imbalances, it's also got these highs to run for and a small imbalance up here as well. So ideally, I'm just looking for dollar to continue to trade on higher. And if you watched my videos last week, you'll know that my bias was to see dollar trade higher on the back of non-farm payroll, and that's pretty much what we're getting. So nothing's really changed in that sense. Let's drop down to the hourly. This is the lowest time frame I'm going today, just because it's Sunday and I never want to talk too much on the Sundays. You can see we just about had an opening, but I can imagine we're going to gap to some extent. But again, look at how price is landing on each other. This bullish order block gets respected here, and then this bullish order block gets respected here, trade into it again here, trade into it again here, and you can see there's willingness. Look at how aggressively volume's trading higher. So it'll be nice to see if price can continue to give us that kind of momentum. And in terms of swing highs and targets, we have this high right here as a nice target for buy side liquidity, and then we also have this high, these highs up here, which are relative equal highs. But again, it's just about waiting for that setup to form. But I do think we're going to see a lot of movement. And then this fair value gap is below this low. So it's a nice piece of sell side liquidity below there that price we want to dip into maybe on Monday or Tuesday. And then I'd like to think that we can turn around in that range. Another thing to take note of is you could kind of argue that this is a breakout. I don't want to throw names on it just for the sake of it. But there is a low, a high, a low, a low. If we're looking at volume, this is significant. And the fact that this imbalance is there, it'd be nice to see if price can tap that and then use that to trade higher. So yeah, moving into London, I'd like to see if price is going to start to drop below there, and then I'd want to see us rally to an extent. But overall, I'm bullish for the most part of the week to see price continue to rally. If we find that price is rallying early in the week, so let's say Monday through Wednesday or Monday through Thursday we've rallied, then Thursday, I'd expect a reversal, strong reversal, for price to break down and pull back into its range. But like I said, I think this week's going to be very telling. Again, look at how much high impact news we have. Especially on the dollar, jobless claims, PPI especially, this can be a mess. So it really just depends where we are at what point of the week. So definitely turn on post notifications just so that you can keep up with me, because I don't want to say too much on the Sunday, because we haven't had any information. I usually let Monday trade so that I can enter Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with an idea of where I want to see the week at certain times, because time and then price. Time is so important. That's how I frame my trades around it. So yeah, so that's everything on dollar right now. Let's head over to GBP USD. Here's all the back testing I've done in today's live stream. If you haven't watched that yet, it's on the channel, so do go check that out. We've done some back testing trades right here, some beautiful setups, highly recommended. Let's go to the weekly, and obviously if we're expecting dollar to trade on higher, we want to see if pound can trade on lower. Now don't get me wrong, pound's a mess as well. Everything's a mess. It's a mess right now. Even ICT's been saying it's a mess, but it's not the cleanest. But if we want to see a down close, where could we be trading to? Well, there's a nice bullish order block down here, but generally speaking, I'm looking at this low as sell side liquidity, and then I'm also looking at this rejection block level right here. So it'd be nice to see if price can get down to that level, and then we can do similarly what we did on dollar by splitting this up and looking at the midpoint, and this will be the highest, very highest I'd want to see price trade into the premium if we are bearish. Ideally 25% level. I'm not going to mark that out just yet, but well, actually let's get it marked out just so we know for reference. But the 25% level is more ideal for us because that suggests we're heavily bearish if price can only reach here, and then we see price trade on lower. So let's go to the daily. And again, not really much. You can see we're in a bit of a consolidation. This was the non-farm payroll, absolutely crazy. But it'll be nice to see price expand down towards that sell side and start drawing down in towards this range around here where they've accumulated before. So I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to do that again. Other than that, the daily doesn't have any. This is something to note. There's no imbalances in the discount on the daily time frame. All we have to use is previous days highs and lows, and then any kind of premium PD arrays. Don't get me wrong, these premium PD arrays, for example, up here, this is some beautiful buy side liquidity. It's just that I don't think price is going to come for it just yet. I think it's going to do some more work in the discount, especially since you can see this clear downtrend. There's a breaker here, high, low, higher, high, and look at how price is respecting this last down close candle. So we consolidated in it, touched it, left it, touched it again. You know, price is continuously respecting this PD array, so there's no reason for us to expect it to act any different until we have a complete reversal. Let's go down to the 4 hour. And you can see it's beautiful price action right here. High, low, higher, high, displacement, last down close candle breaker, short. And then, like I said, well, we've opened already, but I'm not expecting too much rallying, but it won't surprise me if price runs on Monday, because again, Mondays following non-farm payroll tend to be quite quite volatile. So that's something to take note of. But I am liking the look of this market structure. And then you can see there's a nice discount PD arrays trade into right here. So I'd like to see that fair value gap get traded to and through. I want to see price trade through that. So there's a nice easy target, but like I said, I want to see ideally price trades through it completely and starts running towards this resistance level in line again with dollar, ideally pushing up higher. But do take note that there are fair value gaps. For example, here price might just fill this fair value gap and then, you know, consolidate and turn. So I'm going to keep this marked out actually, because this might be the most we get to. We might get to here and it finds, you know, it's satisfied with that, and then it will roll over. I'll explain that again real quickly now. Bear with me. So this is the top of a fair value gap. So we're currently just trading around it. Once we're in it, I'm saying that price might want to fill this 4 hour fair value gap, and then it will roll over and trade lower. So that's something to anticipate. But if we see a lot of aggressive movement and say we find support at that 50% level, it wouldn't surprise me if the buy side start getting targeted. Same on GBP. We have a nice fair value gap, but depending on how dollar's acting, we're either going to trade through it and use it as resistance to go lower, or it will turn in it. And these are just things we can't anticipate until the moment, you know, until the day. So let's go to the 1 hour. And again, there's that fair value gap. Bearish order block. So that should be a nice, if price is going to rally, I want to see it rally into that. There should be a nice setup at London, I can imagine. And then I'd want to see us take out this low. And then again, it depends on how we're treating this fair value gap and where dollar is at the time. So yeah, that's pretty much everything on pound. Do turn on post notification, guys, because I think tomorrow will be a lot more telling. I don't know where all these markets are from, probably last week. Let's go to the weekly here. And then same here. So where do we want to see price trade? If we're going to have a down close week, then we're happy to see price expand into these lows. Now there is a fair value gap right here. There's a gap between this high and this low. There's been no downside delivery here, so I'm looking for price to try and fill that. Highs I'd want to see price trade. Similarly, I'm going to be looking at this previous week's high, wick, 50% and 25% level. go to the daily, and you can see there's a nice bearish order block up there. So, and the fair value gap that looks like it's about to get, well, no, we're not going to count that right now because we're trading that day now. But my point is, I'm happy for price to rally if it needs to get up there. But let's not ignore this. It's there. There's an inversion fair value gap right here. So realistically, based off this, price shouldn't even be able to get up into here. Really, this is the highest price should trade if we're bearish. It can wick above it and everything, but once we're inside this range, I want to see, price struggle and roll over in there to trade on lower and take out these sell stops below here and here. Goes to the 4 hour. You can see we've already used that. Very interesting. But again, any kind of rallying above that midnight opening on Monday, I'll be expecting us to stop in its tracks here and then be able to roll over to then trade lower. 15-minute, not really much. Again, look at this consolidation. See, this is even more support as to why I doubt price is going to get above here. If price manages to trade through all of this consolidation, that means we're probably bullish, and it means we'll probably start running for these highs up here. Because for price to be able to get through this, it needs some kind of sentiment, it needs some kind of drive, it needs some fault. If price can't just, low resistance work its way up through this kind of consolidation, not this. And look at this whole up close, down close. This is a balanced price range. Price doesn't need to go into this as far as I'm concerned. So any kind of rallying should set us up nicely with the expectation to go down into some beautiful relative equal lows that I can see below here. So that should be a nice easy target moving into the new day, assuming that we aren't trading through this. If we get above this inversion fair value gap from the daily, whole different story, and we're probably bullish, but I doubt it. So yeah, that's going to be everything, guys. I hope that was insightful. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list, join the Discord, and do turn on post notifications. I think tomorrow's going to be a really interesting video. Do remember, Mondays after non-farm payroll, so days like this Monday are going to be very volatile, but there should be some nice setups and price should run quite nicely. So keep that in mind when you're trading tomorrow, but I hope that will make sense. But generally speaking, let's see if dollar can start pushing higher, and let's see to what extent. Because if it does go above this fair value gap, if we manage to get above it, and this fair value gap's from the 4 hour, isn't it? If we manage to get above it, it will use it as support and it'll just keep going. If not, it will roll over inside, and then we can start looking at discount PDA rates. It's as simple as that. So yeah, that's everything, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.